We have a lot to share with our viewers as far as financial literacy is concerned. Helping us to do that every Monday, we have the pleasure of welcoming Crystal Howell, who helps us to manage those pennies. Crystal, good morning to you. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's cool on the outside, and you are going to help us with financial literacy on the inside and help us to fight through these tough times. We are seeing COVID-19 has made it very difficult for many, especially the entrepreneurs, to earn a living, and they're doing things differently. Using the internet, using whatever resources they have to earn a dollar. I have a story for you, and you can tell me if this is good on the entrepreneur. Not for now, though, Crystal. We'll talk about this another time.
No
That story
problem.
is an interesting one, but it can be an
Yeah.
example of what not to do as an entrepreneur. So we
We
left
need
off our
to have those as
conversation.
well.
Yeah, it's true. We left off our conversation at a certain point, yes, last week. Let's continue from there.
So last week we were talking about the profits that you would be making. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, they just think as profit as the money you have left back after all of your expenses. But we as financial persons, we like to analyze it a little bit deeper than that. And we would have talked about the profits that you will make before you have interest and taxes. And the reason why we would have made that distinction is because you want to see how your business is doing before you have taxes coming out and before you have all that interest from the loans you would have borrowed coming out, to separate how your business does before all of those things have to happen. And we're going to move on now to talking about that bottom line, and if you're making a profit or a loss after you have all of those things coming out. And if it is a negative number, then unfortunately you are in a loss position. And remember, a lot of people continue to operate losing businesses for too long and get into needless amounts of debt to keep it going in the process. And you have to know when it's time to cut your losses and move on. And this is why I'm trying to make sure that persons not necessarily become experts in reading financial statements, but understand what the numbers mean so that they will know, is this the point where I have gone in way deeper than I can handle? Does my business need to take a different direction? Or all of those discounts that I've been offering to keep my head above water really impacting my ability to continue for the long term? And we need to be able to look at these numbers and make those decisions and not just rely on the person who's preparing these statements to tell us these things. We need to be able to see these things and make these calls as the person in charge of the business.
Okay.
I know
So
it
can you
sounds
give
really
yourself,
scary, but
yeah,
Yeah.
but can you give
go
yourself
ahead.
little tutorials so that you feel a little more confident about reading through these items, or would a session with someone like yourself help to make it less intimidating a process?
Oh, definitely, definitely, definitely. Because as much as, yes, you may be reading these and you may have a basic understanding, sometimes being able to get advice from a person who has been there and does these things for a living would be able to help steer you into the kind of conversation that would be able to determine what direction your business should take. And this is why it's so important to have these conversations from early. Many times persons come when things are unfortunately too late, or there will be great difficulty in being able to dig yourself back out of the hole. And I know it sounds like it's a small business, but let's say you took $5,000 to start our famous fish and chips shop. And in going on with your business, you continue to take on additional loans. You get a $500 from this family member, or you get a credit card and you get yourself into further debt with that. That $5,000 could be gone, along with hundreds or thousands of dollars in debt for your small business, because you weren't tracking the numbers, because you didn't understand what they meant, because you figured, oh, I just selling fish and chips. Everybody else is selling them for $10. I'm going to sell them for $10, without understanding all of the operating expenses that went into your business, without understanding the taxes that you may have to pay without understanding the interest on the debt that you would have borrowed, including that credit card debt that you think, oh, it's just, $50 they have to pay every month, but not realizing the amount of interest that has been accumulating from you having and incurring that kind of debt.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't just want to be running a business for the sake of saying, I own a business. You want it to be profitable. And you
Yeah,
got to watch that bottom line before you get into, as you said, some of that credit
Absolutely.
card debt, which is normally additional debt, debt on debt on debt. So you want to come out of the red and go into the black. So help us to go into the black.
yes.
Some quick tips in the last minute or so that we have so that we can stay or at least come out of the red and go into the black.
The main thing, because we'll go into the other slides, which will give you all of the tips and tricks of understanding these financials as we go along. But the main thing that I would recommend is to document it. If you didn't know I was going to say that, you haven't been watching the show, but to document every single transaction that you would have and to monitor, because it makes no sense to be documenting all of this information and doing absolutely nothing with it. If you aren't monitoring what's going on with your business, you will surprise yourself with the failure.
Wow.
Okay. We don't want that at all. Failure is not an option. So get the
No,
best
and
advice, know your stuff, and you'll be well on your way, and get professional assistance where it is needed. Good
correct.
place to wrap up.
And
Yeah.
ICAB and many other financial institutions, are partnering with the ministry to offer free financial clinics. There are often lots of internet advice that you can take advantage of so that you can make sure that you stay on top of this. Being a business person isn't just reserved to being good at what you do. You're going to have to be good at a lot of things, which is why I always take my hat off to entrepreneurs, because you have to become mini experts in so many things aside from what you're good at. So again, not full-blown expert, but you need to understand financials, you need to understand marketing, you need to understand your customers, building relationships. And this obviously has nothing to do with you making fish and chips or you being able to fix vehicles or any of those other things. But without them, your business can suffer.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Some good advice there, especially as we celebrate entrepreneurs in this month of November as we lead up to independence. And you got on your independence colors. You're looking good. You be safe until next week.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, Crystal.